my name is Dorian and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through the different books, TV shows, and movies that I have read and watched for the month of June this year, and then I'm going to be talking about each of them briefly before I rate them on a 5-star scale. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book that I read for the month of June was The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is by T.J. Klune. This book follows a social worker who lives in a world much like our own. However, there are magical creatures and magical beings, and our social worker actually takes on cases that have to do with orphanages and foster homes that are caring for these magical children. Our protagonist goes to a house in the Cerulean Sea where he stays for a month and observes the interactions between the children as well as the head of their foster home. This was such a cute read, and it was a great one to get me started for summer break and get me in the summer mood. I really enjoyed the LGBTQ representation in this book, and I thought that the story tackled a lot of relevant issues that we see going on today. This book was definitely unlike a lot of what I have read before, but I really enjoyed it, and I really think that TJ might be one of my new favorite authors. I'm really looking forward to his next book that's coming out, which is Under the Whispering Door. I'm not sure if it's out already or if it's going to be coming out, but I will definitely be ordering it. I really enjoyed how this book was based in a world like our own, but it had these magical aspects because it really took me back to a time when I was younger and I was reading things like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, and it really just brought back that feeling of being a kid and reading about a magical world. Out of 5 stars, I gave The House in the Cerulean Sea 5. The first TV show that I watched in June was Peaky Blinders Season 4, and this was actually my favorite season so far. I really enjoyed the Italian involvement, the Italian mafia that was depicted in this season, as well as the added gypsy aspects in this season, because the gypsies have been important throughout past seasons, but we haven't really been able to delve into their lifestyles and how they live. And in this season, we definitely got more of that, which I really enjoyed because it's a very central aspect of the main character's life. I really enjoyed the ending of this season, and it was definitely a good lead up to season 5 of the show. There will be one more season after season 5, which I'm very excited about. But honestly, this season really picked me back up from season 3, which was my least favorite season, and which is the season that I said a lot of people would probably have dropped off from watching the show. So good for them for picking it back up. I really enjoyed the writing, the characters, the plot. It was great overall. Out of 5 stars, I gave Peaky Blinders Season 4 4. The first movie that I watched for the month of June was The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. And unfortunately, this was definitely my least favorite Conjuring film so far, and just in general, my least favorite film in the Conjuring universe. It wasn't really a horror movie so much as it was a thriller and a love story, because this film definitely had more plot involved in it and intertwined in it than previous movies, which have just been, there's one storyline, there's, one bad guy, one demon or whatever, whereas this film really centered in on our two main characters, the Warrens, who are paranormal investigators, and it was more so about their story, their past, and them having to overcome obstacles to retain their love. I wasn't as scared watching it as I have been in the past. In the past I've been screaming, I've been covering my face, I haven't wanted to watch, but I made myself continue watching. And in this film, I just kind of wanted it to be over, and I just kind of wanted it to be revealed what the horror aspect was. I really enjoy the two main characters and seeing them on screen. I hope this isn't the last of the Warrens that we will be seeing. However, I do hope that the creators move away from this kind of film and go back to just plain old horror, scary, little bit of gruesome here and there, and just kind of stick in that lane, because it was a real letdown after waiting for the third Conjuring film after the last one. So out of 5 stars, I gave this Conjuring movie 3. The next book that I read in June was The Children of Hurin by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book follows the children of Hurin, obviously, and their father is taken captive by the first Dark Lord of Middle-earth, who is Morgoth. It's just basically a compilation of stories throughout Hurin's son Turin, and then you do see a little bit of the sister Nienor. Since this book is based before the events of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, there are places that haven't really been explored explored through the films and such before, so it is a little bit hard to follow that way with everywhere that they're talking about that isn't on the map of Middle-earth anymore. But it was nice to be able to read about this time in Middle-earth and to read about our two main characters, Turin and Nienor. If you have seen my summer TBR video, I talked about how I wanted to read 2 other books by Tolkien, but I decided to go with this one because not only is it shorter, it just interested me more than those other 2 did. And I honestly was very surprised by how much I enjoyed this book, because personally, The Lord of the Rings was a struggle for me, no matter how much I love those stories and I love that world. But this one was a good way to get me back into Middle-earth and to get me back into Tolkien's writing style. His writing was still a little bit challenging, but it was definitely refreshing coming off of YA novels. I wouldn't say that all writing styles of YA are the same, but they are very similar, and Tolkien just writes in a way that is unlike anything else, and it was very refreshing to me. I really enjoyed the characters of Turin and Nienor. However, I do wish that we saw more of Nienor, who is the sister and the daughter of Hurin, because we only got a glimpse into her life really, and how she grew from being a child to a woman and what she went through. So it would have been a little more refreshing if I had been able to see more of Nienor, because you know me, I love a good female protagonist, and I just would have liked to have read more about her. I will say, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm gonna put a little red dot in the corner until I'm done talking about the spoiler if you want to mute it, and then unmute it when it goes away. But basically, there was an incestuous aspect to this book that I sort of saw coming, but didn't really expect to actually happen. So I didn't enjoy that aspect of it, because we've gone away from that, and I wish that Tolkien, or at least his son Christopher, had edited that out, but it's fine. I just wasn't expecting it, and I did not like that aspect at all, so that kind of took away from the book overall for me. But honestly, I really enjoyed it otherwise, and that didn't happen till the end, so other than that, it was great. So since I overall enjoyed this book, aside from 1 or 2 aspects, I gave it 4 stars. The next show that I watched in June was Big Little Lies Season 1, and I really enjoyed this show, and I think it's definitely worth the hype. I'm glad that I finally got around to watching it, because honestly, it's probably one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. I really enjoyed the cinematography and how viewers were able to explore each of the main characters that we meet in this show. As much as I disliked some of these characters, I could sympathize with every single one of them at some point in time. So I think that that was great on the creators' part, because otherwise you would just have these women who, some of which you absolutely despise, but being able to sympathize with them really allows viewers to see the world through their eyes and see how some of the actions that they take are reasonable. I really enjoyed the recurring theme of women sticking up for one another and banding together to protect one another, and I definitely think that that is something that will be coming back in season 2. I will say that it was easy for me to call a lot of what the creators were trying to keep a secret throughout the first season, but I did not see the ending coming at all. I was very shocked when we find out who the antagonist is, so props to the creators on that, and I'm definitely looking forward to season 2, and I definitely think that this is a must-watch TV series. So out of 5 stars, I gave Big Little Lies Season 1 5. The next movie that I watched for the month of June was In the Heights. First and foremost, I would just like to say that I recognize that some people are upset with Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is the creator of In the Heights and who directed the film, because they believe that he didn't cast people who properly reflected the community that he was trying to represent in the film. However, because I'm not a part of that community and I am not involved in it in any way, I don't want to comment on that aspect. So in my review, I'm just going to separate myself from it. But I would like to say that I do recognize people's thoughts and opinions and feelings about that aspect of the film. So story-wise, I really enjoyed it. I really liked the characters, the songs, the script. I did think it was a little long, a little drawn out, and like Hamilton, which is on Disney Plus and which is another of Lin-Manuel Miranda's musicals, it's very long, but I definitely believe that the film could have been cut down. I'd also really like to see the musical performed on stage instead of just seeing it on film, because I would like to see the difference in taking away visual effects, perfect sound. I'd like to see the difference in costume, makeup, casting. I just think it would be a whole other and different experience, and I would really enjoy it. The ending of the musical I was a little disappointed in, and that's in regards to the main character's choice about whether or not he will be staying in New York or going back to Puerto Rico to live out a lifelong dream. But aside from that, I really enjoyed the musical, I really enjoyed the film, and I gave In the Heights 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book was definitely worth the hype. I enjoyed it so much. I want to reread it, and I already picked up her other book, Circe, which I am really looking forward to diving into and hopefully finishing before the end of summer. This book follows Achilles, obviously, and his best friend Patroclus from when they are children up until the siege of Troy, and all the heroes who are called to go to Troy and reclaim Helen. It's an LGBTQ retelling about Achilles and Patroclus and their relationship with one another. It's very well written, it's heartbreaking, it's adorable, it's got action, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the world, and I really enjoy how Madeline immersed the readers in ancient Greece. She clearly did her research on ancient Greece, on the myth. I did feel that the ending of the book was a little rushed, and I would have appreciated it more if she had stuck to the myth with Achilles' death instead of changing it, because I was expecting him to die a certain way, and then when he didn't, it was sort of a letdown because I don't think I was expecting it to end that way. So in that regard, I just wish that she had followed the myth a bit more. Overall, this book was amazing, and I highly recommend it. So I give The Song of Achilles 4.5 out of 5 stars. Finally, the last book that I read in June was To Kill a Kingdom, which is by Alexandra Christo. This book follows a girl named Lyra who is a siren, and she's the princess of the sirens. She's never been on land before, but she is renowned for hunting princes and stealing their hearts to gain more power. However, she gets herself into trouble, and her mother, who is the sea witch and the sea queen, curses her with legs, turns her into a human, and she is found by Prince Elian, who she is tasked with killing. It's an enemies to lovers, and it's clearly a Little Mermaid retelling. So overall, I enjoyed the book. I thought it was a very good story idea. However, after speaking with my friend Maddie, we both have read this book and we read it around the same time, and we agreed that yes, it was a great story idea. However, the execution wasn't done as well as it could have been, and unfortunately, a lot of the story just kind of fell flat to me, especially in regard to the writing style. Alexandra's writing style was just very curt and cut off to me because she wrote a lot of the book in small sentences with a lot of periods that could have been commas or semicolons or colons or dashes or anything but periods. So when I was reading it, it's hard to explain, but I'm just gonna try and describe it as if you're a music person. Reading it was like playing something in staccato. Her sentences were very just one right after the other, just boom, 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 and it just didn't flow as well as it could have. I will say that I really did enjoy Lyra and Elian's characters. I think that we learned a lot about them in the book, and I feel like they were really explored, so I think that Alexandra did a really good job in that regard. The world was very interesting and unique. I loved the different names of places and the different aspects of each place. I just wish that we had had a map, because trying to envision where all of these different places are in relation to one another is very difficult without a map, because Alexandra throws out so many different kingdoms and so many different names of places. So it would have been nice to have a map, and I really would have enjoyed the book better that way. Like The Song of Achilles, I found that the ending of this book was rushed, and it definitely could have been slowed down a bit and lengthened to allow the reader to better process it. But I do believe that this book ended on a good note, and like I said, overall, I did enjoy it. So out of 5 stars, I gave this book 3.5. Alright everybody, so those are all the books, movies, and TV shows that I have consumed over the month of June. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel to help it grow. I have linked all of the books down below that I talked about, and all of the movies that I talked about are available to stream on one platform or another. Please let me know down below if you have read any of these books or seen any of these movies or TV shows, and what your thoughts and feelings were on them, and if they differed from mine. Aside from that, I will see you next time.